I want to take a moment to go back to 2016, where Senator Bernie Sanders was running for president still, and he attended a town hall with Chris Cuomo of CNN, and he was asked a question about Medicare for All, and he was very specific in his answer. Now, I'm going to show you the clip of his answer. It's really quick. It's only 25 seconds. And then after I show you that clip, I'm going to show you how CNN subsequently reported on his answer to the question that they asked.
But just to be clear, you are going to raise taxes to do this?
Yes, we will raise taxes. Yes, we will. But also let us be clear, Chris, because there's a little bit of disingenuity out there. We may raise taxes, but we are also going to eliminate private health insurance premiums for individuals and for business.
So you've got the context. We're going to raise taxes, but we'll eliminate monthly premiums. Well, this is how CNN reported on it. Headline: Sanders breaks with campaign tradition in calling for tax hikes. And it wasn't just CNN who did this. MSNBC did the same thing. Bernie Sanders: we will raise taxes. Yes, we will. No mention at all of Medicare for All in the headline. The headline didn't read, Sanders: we will eliminate private health insurance premiums. No. What they did was they quoted him out of context in order to convey and imply that he just wants to arbitrarily raise taxes on normal Americans. That's what they tried to do. They asked him a question about whether or not Medicare for All will require him to raise taxes. He says yes, but explains how it's actually not going to hurt the Americans and lead to them having less money in their pockets. And they take him out of fucking context, showing you how disingenuous supposedly left-wing media outlets are. Now, to no one's surprise, they did this same thing, the same exact tactic again, but this time to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, she recently gave an interview to Anderson Cooper for 60 Minutes, and there's a portion of that interview that they're really attacking her for. Now, I'm going to read to you her quote in order for you to get the full context, and then we'll go through how they reported it. She said, I think there's a lot of people more concerned about being precisely, factually, and semantically correct than about being morally right. And whenever I make a mistake, I say, okay, this was clumsy, and then I restate what my point was. So, I mean, we've all been following Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and what she's saying actually does make sense, because what people try to do is they try to fish out whatever errors they can possibly find in order to overlook the broader point that she's making. I mean, an example of this was when she was doing an Instagram live stream and she accidentally claimed that the executive, Senate, and House were the three chambers of government. Now, people try to imply that this was her being so dumb that she didn't even know that there were three branches of government, but it was obvious that she misspoke. So the point that she was trying to make is that people try to look for mistakes in order to skew what I'm saying. But still, I mean, I can word things clumsily. I'm a human being. That's what she said. She admitted that there. So, I mean, you have the context. You know what she said and why she said what she did. But can you guess how Chris Cillizza of CNN decided to characterize her statement? This is what he tweeted out. He quoted a portion of what she said out of context and made it seem as if she was saying that she didn't care about facts. And he tweeted this multiple times, and if the implication was too subtle for you about what he was trying to convey about AOC, well, he makes his intentions even more clear by linking to an article he wrote about the interview titled Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Very Slippery Slope on Facts. So he couldn't be more disingenuous if he tried. He quoted her out of context to make it seem as if she was saying she didn't care about facts. You can't do that because you're taking her out of context and you're not getting the broader point that she's trying to make. And the point she was trying to make is that by only focusing on the mistakes I make, people are missing the broader point, but of course I still care about facts. But that's not what he wanted to communicate to you. He wanted to make her seem uneducated and wacky, and it was probably the most disingenuous thing CNN has done since what they did to Bernie Sanders, where they quoted him out of context talking about Medicare for All and taxes. So make no mistake about it. What this network did to Bernie Sanders is exactly what they're doing now to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But unlike when they did that to Bernie, AOC actually decided to call them out, call them on their bullshit, and she tweeted this to Chris Cillizza: cover the quote in context. Thanks. So I love this because it's often the case that propagandists in the mainstream corporate media, they rarely get called out. I mean, people in independent media call them out, but nobody listens to us. They're not watching the Humanist Report or the Jimmy Dore Show or Secular Talk. They don't give a shit about what we have to say. But someone who's a lawmaker actually called them out. And what happened next was my favorite part of the story, because Chris Cillizza then proceeded to lie about why he took her out of context, got busted for lying about why he took her out of context, and then deleted the tweet where he lied about taking her out of context. So he responded claiming he did provide the full context, and that, quote, "it's in the piece, just couldn't fit the entire quote due to Twitter character limit." But as Parker Malloy points out, not only did he have enough characters to include the full quote, he had enough characters to include a link to the full article as well. Now, Ocasio-Cortez then retweeted proof that he lied and called him out again, saying, "Chris Cillizza, looks like your character count argument to avoid including my full quote is straight up wrong. Also, where are all of the Pinocchios for Republicans this week, many of whom are much more senior than me, blatantly lying about marginal tax rates?" Exactly. The majority whip, Steve Scalise, in the Republican Party lied about her and her 70% marginal tax rate. He tried to make it seem as if she just wants to tax people blanket, 70%. Failing to even point out the fact that it's 70% for all income above $10 million. So either he's dumb or disingenuous. Chris Cillizza didn't make a big deal about that. I honestly don't even know if he said anything about that. So he got called out for it, and he tried to defend himself one more time by addressing his blatant lie about not having enough characters, and he said that what Parker Malloy showed wasn't a singular quote, and that her quote was broken up and something, yada, yada, yada. And at that point, really anything he said didn't matter, because if you go to that specific tweet, all of the comments just roast the fuck out of him. So much so that somebody posted an actual article, a serious person, saying, "Don't bully Chris Cillizza." Don't bully Chris Cillizza. He's a fucking journalist. He's not being bullied. You can't bully the rich and the powerful. We're punching up. He's punching down. He's punching down on a politician who's fighting for the working people. That's not bullying. That's called speaking truth to power. But nonetheless, what he says here, his excuse that, it wasn't a direct quote, there was too much in between. I'm going to blow Chris Cillizza's mind here, because if there's a really long quote and you only want to include specific portions of the quote, if you want to cut out stuff from the middle of said quote, you actually have the ability to break up quotes if you place square brackets around 3 periods. We'll know that there's more in between the direct quote that you're using. He already knows that. He's a journalist. The problem is that he got caught being intentionally disingenuous, trying to mislead people who read that article and he was hoping would look at the headline in order to make it seem as if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez didn't care about facts. That's wrong, and he got called out for it. And when someone in the mainstream media finally gets called out, what do other propagandists say in defense? Oh, that's bullying. Right, that's bullying. Well, how about this? Stop bullying us by asking how we're going to pay for Medicare for all, but not how we pay for the wars. Stop bullying us by trying to delegitimize progressive candidates like Bernie Sanders. But, this is all asymmetric warfare. They're allowed to take shots, but when we respond, we're the bullies. Unbelievable. So, regardless of how they responded and how much feelings were hurt here, I don't care. Whenever this happens, whenever mainstream media propagandists are trying to intentionally mislead people, you've got to do this. You've got to call them out and address it. Because if Bernie Sanders called them out for doing this, and he's alluded to, them being disingenuous before, if he directly called them out, I think that it would have worked out in his favor a lot. So I'm really glad that Ocasio-Cortez did this here, because this was completely unacceptable. Shame on Chris Cillizza.
Subscribe if you like this video, folks. Mike's tremendous, and he's doing a really, really good job. Many people are telling me about how wonderful the Humanist Report is. Bigly.